So our CFO, Ruth Porritt, was here recently. Though she sounds American, she was actually born in Manchester. We're investing about $1 billion over the coming 5 years in the country, including the building. We're hiring people at quite a strong clip each year. So we're all in the UK. It's a wonderful place to do business, notwithstanding those traumas that you rightly point out. If you draw for example, if you draw a 3-hour train ride radius around London, you've got just on the edge of it at least, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Manchester, the Northern England towns, Liverpool, and then towards the south you've got Paris and Amsterdam. Which and you've got that sort of biotechnology corridor that joins London to Oxford. It's the if you think about that as a zone for entrepreneurship, it's the most interesting rival to the Silicon Valley. We've got more unicorn companies, that's billion-dollar valuation, privately held companies, than any other country in Europe. More than Germany, France, and Italy combined, and that shows no sign of let-up. There's a very mature capital market, so that the equity is there, the education system is good, the infrastructure is good. And our hub for Europe is actually in the Republic of Ireland, and that's very much part of the anatomy of the way that we run our business. So that will, and that's of course still in the EU. So look, we're very much here for the long run, and Google in the UK is a little bit of a sandbox, right? It's because of its maturity as a digital market, it often happens here first, and we learn a lot that then gets disseminated to the rest of the world, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, by the way, on that front. And Phil, you mentioned a few trends, and I want to talk about some consumer trends which may be interesting and valuable to some of the listeners here. These are trends from the UK, but I think they're fairly representative. So what have we seen spike during COVID? Interest in sustainability. So in the UK, we've just hosted COP26, which is the climate convention. Lots of good stuff there, and Google's been the first company to commit to a carbon zero footprint by 2030. We're already carbon neutral and have been since 2007. Resignation, right? That's the Great Resignation. You may have heard. That's a search spike. How do I write a resignation letter? Also, shops near me. Should we take a risk and try a screen share? Let me just try and show you this. Do you see that? So these are search trends. The yellow line is cheap. How can I get a cheap? Fill in the gap. The red line is best. What's the best thing? And the blue line is near me. And this inflection point that you see is 2016. So isn't that interesting? And that's one of many trends that we've seen. People are consumers, all of us, are more interested in buying quality and local, right? And that's a wonderful opportunity actually that emerges from COVID. So think about those red zones in New Zealand. Your consumers are going to be increasingly interested to support their local, what we call high streets in the UK, your local sort of shops. So there's an opportunity there to lean into that. People are using video more and more to learn stuff. Entertainment. I've got 2 billion monthly active users now on YouTube. YouTube is watched 1 hour and 4 minutes on average per day in the UK, which is more than all of the broadcast channels put together, and 50% more than Netflix. People are starting to research travel again. Retail is booming, but so is inflation, right? So we saw the Fed recently talking about putting interest rates up, and I think that'll be a trend that'll peg back that inflation a little bit, and e-commerce, as I mentioned earlier, is booming fairly dramatically in New Zealand, as far as I can see. I haven't seen my parents in 2 years, and you know, the MIQ process has made it pretty much impossible and infeasible to get back. That's changing, yay, come about Easter next year. So that's important, and international travel in New Zealand is such an important part of the economy. The travel industry there is really important. It hasn't really died in Europe. So what we've seen during COVID, as you would expect, is a real strong spike, particularly during lockdown periods, for staycations, so domestic travel. I've been to Scotland for three times in the last year, for example, which is wonderful. It's a lot like the South Island, slightly less pretty. So people have been going on holidays within the country, and I think that's probably also true in New Zealand, as far as I know from my friends and family there. In Europe, it's reasonably free and easy. So, you know, we were in France over the summer last year. We were in France over the summer this year. We've just been down last month. I'm going again on Monday. There's a few bits and pieces that are a bit boring that you have to get through, like PCR tests and showing vaccination certificates and passenger locator forms and things like that. But it's not too bad. Longer haul travel has been affected. Not many people are traveling to Africa, certainly Southern Africa at the moment, for obvious reasons. So it tends to be topical. There was a huge surge in travel during the summer, the northern summer, to places like Ibiza, the Balearic Islands of Spain, and they did a huge push. Now we're sort of coming up on ski season. Let's see, Switzerland's closed its borders, so has Austria. France is still accepting visitors, so that'll be affected. So it waxes and wanes, I would say, but you know, we're very much probably not travelled as much as we usually would, but we have travelled internationally. Really good for startups for a couple of reasons. One is, you know, workplace displacement, right? People being furloughed or you know, losing their jobs, and you know, necessity is the mother of invention in many ways, and many businesses have grown out of that. The other thing that's spawned a bit of a boom is capital. There's a lot of investment capital available in the world, a surplus. That we may see some retrenchment in that as governments start to reverse the sort of quantitative easing of the past and start to bring those inflation figures down. That tends to sort of push people from high risk assets like startups into lower risk assets like treasury bonds and the like. And I think the third thing actually is I've never seen so much innovation in such a short period of time. We've seen 5 years happen in 5 weeks, right? In many cases. At the start of lockdown, certainly here in the UK, businesses that were already pretty well set up for click and collect and e-commerce have thrived, and those that weren't have been very quick in correcting that. And that's just lifted the bar, and that hasn't been an ephemeral trend that will come and go during a lockdown period and people will sort of go back to the old habits. It looks like it's rebaselined itself, and I talked about the e-commerce ratio before. And we've seen the most remarkable innovation. So I'll pick a Kiwi example, at least a Kiwi founder, Crosstown Donuts, Kiwi founders. Wonderful donuts, hard to sell donuts when all your shops are closed, right? So Crosstown Donuts got together with a local dairy producer and a local veggie seller, and they did boxes, delivery boxes. In other cases, we've seen, you know, high-end restaurants, including silver service, go to, you know, delivery. And even in the music industry, where I have some interests, although live music wasn't happened, the biggest live concert in history happened during lockdown. Travis Scott, a rapper from Texas, performed 3 15-minute sets in the gaming environment of Fortnite in front of 27 million people who watched live, and subsequently another 250 million in watchback mode, where the previous record for a live concert was 250,000. So innovation has been everywhere during COVID, and necessities a wonderful context for invention. Those milestone moments in life, don't you? A disruptive change like doing the OE in the first place. Samantha, by the way, Samantha Webster's asked a question on the OE, which I'll answer in this burst. Getting married, having children, those children reaching school age, those children reaching the end of school. These are milestone moments that tend to be inflection points, and many of my Kiwi friends have moved back home or closing a business, right? My very good friend Peter Gordon moved home with his partner Alistair at the time that they closed their restaurant, and they're doing wonderful things now in Auckland. Please go and visit them down at the Viaduct. I think they are. I haven't been there yet. So, you know, we've probably had fleeting glances at heading back. One thing's been true, however, we've never chosen to do that, right? So never say never, and you know, I think that's just dogma that's unhelpful in life. But we've never felt the draw strongly enough. However, something that sustained us for 22 years, we've travelled back to New Zealand every year. You know, I've got 2 teenage sons, 19 and 16. The 19-year-old's been 19 times, not in the last year, sadly. So that's kept us very much embedded in the fabric, and you know, gives us that sense of root. And I'm a proud Kiwi and a real advocate for Kiwi businesses and everything that we stand for creatively and entrepreneurially. But yeah, I mean, London for me is home right now. I'd like to think that we'll have more geo-flexibility as we continue to mature into very young, you know, young people and less young people, my wife and I. But no, is the short answer. Now, Samantha says, what advice would you offer younger listeners who have put off their OE due to COVID and may be hesitant to travel to or work in the UK? My advice to younger listeners who have put off their OE and are hesitant about traveling to the UK is just go, do it. You know, COVID's going to be a fact of life. It's not going to go away. If you're fully vaccinated, you've taken the precautions that you need to, and get on with living. And I think that's great advice for anybody living in any part of the world right now, particularly New Zealand, right? It's a high vaccination rate. The likelihood is, 1, you will get COVID. 2, it will be benign if you're vaccinated. So get vaccinated and then go traveling and have fun, live your life.